to tell a story that means something to me, might not mean a lot to you, but it's like a roller coaster ride. The story of my life. My name is Distortion on the internet because I used to be a musician. My real name is Edmund Ballard. Then I changed it to Edmund Aitken Ballard to keep my grandfather happy that made my father unhappy. I was born in Windsor on the 7th of October, 1973. My father was one of the chaplains of Eton College, that school that all the politicians go to that you all hate. We started off with that. He was treated badly. I was born, as I said, in Windsor nursing home, and then they knocked it down and we moved away. We moved to Somerset. My father, I can't speak for him, but it seemed he was a little disillusioned with the fact that being a school chaplain didn't work out, so he went to parishes as a parish clergyman. I had the best childhood. We were feral. We ran free. Me and my two sisters could do what we wanted when we wanted, as long as it wasn't dark. So in the winter, obviously, that's a bit boring because it's dark at 3:30. But in the summer, 10 o'clock at night, we'd come rolling in and it was all fine. I don't think that's probably true. I was probably told off if I walked in at 10, 11. But I remember Somerset. I remember the fields, the trees, the woods, the gardens, the freedom, the spirit, and the openness. And that openness and freedom and space and breathability is something I've craved since the day we left. We were 11 when I left Somerset and we moved to Hertfordshire and again into all these schools that were very posh and very well-to-do. And instead of being intelligent enough to understand that if I fight back, I'm not going to get what I need out of these schools, I didn't. I just fought back. I pushed. I made sure everyone knew that I was unhappy. I probably made teachers' lives a misery, but to be fair, some of them deserved it. I remember saving a kid's life at school, and I think his name was Alex. In fact, it was Alex. And I was called into the housemaster's office, study, whatever you call it. And then after I'd carried this kid who'd puked up all over himself into the sanatorium to have his stomach pumped, stayed there and helped the doctor because I knew him, and then went back to pick up my bag, I was called into the study. The housemaster, his name was Turnbull. He accused me of being the one that supplied this kid with the bottle of Jim Beam that he drank. He said I was the only one that could have possibly have got it for him because I could get outside of the school. It wasn't true. It wasn't true at all. And in fact, I'd had to kick in a toilet door to break my way in to rescue some kid who just puked his guts out and wouldn't have carried on living due to alcohol poisoning if I hadn't have saved him. This kid was like 12 years old. So that injustice stayed with me for a while, and he locked me in his office to go and get another teacher. And so I did what any unassuming young chap would do, and I smashed the place up. I lost my temper to such a great degree that I ended up literally breaking desks and windows. My father had to come and get me. He calmed me down. And he basically walked in and said, "Have you finished?" And I wasn't sure that I had. And it wasn't about getting into trouble. I didn't have any fear of that. It wasn't about the fact that I wanted to make a noise. It's about the fact that I saw injustice in what had been dealt to me. And that's a pattern that stays with me through most of my life. So moving on, got to GCSEs and I did an art project, and I did it with my dad, and it was about Waltham Abbey. And I went there and I made a pot because it was ceramics. We did all that, and with that, I was going to get an A in art. And then I got my results and I got a B. And they said because I didn't hand in one of the projects. Well, no, I didn't because I was sick, but my dad did. My father handed it in, so he knew I wasn't lying. And again, this injustice triggered me to kick off. So I threatened the art master, and then they set precedent again by locking me in the corridor, which I kicked the doors through and then was in it. How I didn't get expelled, I have no idea. Probably because my father made sure it was all right. Didn't do any real damage, but I scared a few people that day. And I think I'll be honest, scared myself a little too, because I realised my rage had no limits. My anger had no ability to switch off once it had been switched on. Now, when you're a kid and you're in school and the injustice is overtaken and you're protected, that's fine. But in the real world, you do that, it's only one place you're going, or maybe two, either the funny farm or you're going inside for a while. So I suppose what I'm trying to tell you about this school business is, even though I was given every opportunity that a lot of kids didn't, the injustice overruled everything. I ended up getting all of my GCSEs. I got 2 A's, 5 B's and 3 C's in the end. Doesn't mean anything, does it? I'm 52 and I've got GCSEs. But, you know, life is about these little steps you have to take to move forward. The only trouble is I think I've always struggled with what society wants. I want to do what I want to do. I've got a conscience. You know, there are people in my life that I love and I do not want to hurt them and I want to make sure they're fine. And my temper these days is somewhat in check. But in school, it wasn't. My only outlet was a rugby pitch, and I was good at that. And I knew I was good at that. But even that got tainted because I bust my knee and then couldn't play and then faded into the background. I was supposed to join the Royal Artillery, but when you break your knee, all of the nice officers who come to take you out for lunch once a month, they all disappear. So I was left to my own devices. So it was pretty obvious that if I didn't leave when my father left Haileybury, which was when I was in the lower sixth, just before A-levels, I would have been expelled. And I made damn sure that I would have been as well with my behaviour. You know, half empty open bottles of Jack Daniels on my desk, full ashtrays, burning Marlboro. Every single type of rebellion, from sex to drugs to rock and roll, literally, was had. So I ended up in a place called Maida Vale for College of Further Education, where I did my A-levels. And I went from being quite a solid, like B grade student for A-levels to getting 2 U's and an N because I didn't give a shit. Found rock and roll, found a few fellas, called a band called Futile Gesture, and got signed to EMI. That was open door season on drinking, on drugs, and everything that goes with that. We thought we were rock stars, even though we weren't even beginning. We played a gig at the Swan in Fulham. I'm not even sure it's still there, but that was a music pub, students' pub. It was lively, and we used to fill it a lot. So in that gig, I'm literally swinging off the bar above the stage. Like there's a metal bar above my head. And I'm swinging off it. And this guy from EMI comes in and is watching us. And I'm pissed and being a buffoon. But he saw something in the music and he liked it. And we'd written everything. We weren't playing covers. It was all our own music. And he offered us some kind of deal. It was a long time ago. And that was my first taste of business and music. So we did it. We ended up imploding as a band before we got anywhere. But I'd written a couple of songs. So they kind of took them as severance, if you like. So I got away with that and we moved on. I ended up becoming a little disillusioned with the world and wanting to make some fast money, because bearing in mind, I'd come from a family where I thought we never needed anything, but I realised that the poverty of the situation wasn't good. I never wanted to be poor. So that's when crime came into the mix. When you're selling drugs and you're facilitating people's needs, you can make a lot of money. I did. I rubbed shoulders with a few gangsters. I rubbed shoulders in a world where you think that there's a cohesion and a group, and you think that there's some kind of respect. As long as you do what you do and you hold up your end and you're the big man, turns out it's all bullshit. It's just criminals, isn't it? There is no code of ethics. Ask the Albanians when they took over Soho. There's no code. Used to be that, you know, women and children weren't part of the mix. Nowadays, people have no conscience. Nowadays, people take crime and they take over the world with it because they don't care who they kill or they hurt, because it's all about money. I am so far removed from that way of thinking now that I'm almost ashamed that I was almost part of it. There's a lot of shame and guilt. There's a lot of knowing that what I did wasn't good. You know, there's the old adage, I never hurt someone who didn't deserve it. Well, yeah, but does anyone deserve that? If you walk into that world, you walk into that criminality, you walk into that fast money ethic, yeah, you might make something, you might do well for a while, and you might have a nice car, and you might have a house, and a nice woman, and a dog, and a whatever the fuck. What actually happens is you slip further and further down the scale until someone either kills you, or you go out of prison, or you get out. Well, it was a little while till I got out, because I met a group of motorcycle enthusiasts, and I thought brotherhood was a thing. I saw these guys with their colours, flying their colours, proud of their colours, understanding that their brothers around them would do anything for them. And that facilitation made anything possible. And this was a worldwide organisation. Back then, it was a lot smaller than it is now. And I can honestly tell you, having been party to their meetings, to their dealings, facilitating their business, I can tell you that it's all bullshit. They would rather stab each other in the back and get an extra tenner off a deal than they would stand next to their brothers. Yes, of course, there are some that still believe in it who will argue with me and say, that's not the way it is, it's not happened. Yeah. Look at the old guys who fell by the wayside. Look at the ones that weren't useful anymore. They've all disappeared. All I've learnt from criminality is, yes, you can make money as long as you don't mind losing your soul. And if you lose your soul, there's nothing left. And I'm not talking about God. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about anything like that. And I'm not preaching anything to you, but I will tell you this. If you're young and you think crime is the way forward, right? And more today, there are more gangs. There's a lot more violence. There's a lot more openness to criminality than there was. I can honestly tell you, it's not the way to go, because it doesn't end well. I spent 2.5 years thinking I was going to die. There was a price put on my head, if you like. Words were put out. I lived in fear for 2.5 years. Now, I don't know if you know what that's like. Anxiety is a terrible thing, right? And a lot of people have anxiety now, but waking up every day realizing it's probably going to be your last because someone's going to pop you, well, that's not good. And you start making rash decisions. So going from selling drugs, I started to take them. And once you start on that road, the paranoia gets worse. And I lost everything. Didn't have a place to live. Didn't have any money. Had a bag. Got sick. As I sit here now and I tell you this, I understand that I had to have gone through all of this to be who I am today. But what I can also tell you is, it's emotional to look at it and feel it and understand why I did it. There was a rational reason. But that escapism, that spiral into addiction, the only reason that happened is because I had no hope and I lost purpose. And when you lose purpose, you lose your life. Addiction is a disease, but it's also leveraged and influenced by the life you live. The less noise, the less damage. It's that simple. In part 2, we'll have a look at the knock-on effect and the dangers of what I'd done, where I came from, and how I dealt with it.
I'd be an angel if I stuck feathers through my skin. And the long and short of it is, I wouldn't know where to begin.